Hello and welcome to my craft room. Hi there, my name is Sherry Roth with Stamped Treasures. I'm a Stampin' Up demonstrator from Alberta, Canada, and I would love to share my craft room with you. So one of the challenges that we have as crafters is the collecting of lots and lots of supplies. And I have a small 8x10 craft room, and I am a business Stampin' Up demonstrator. So I do this as my full-time job, but it is also my hobby. So over the years, I've had various rooms, from a full basement to just a small area of our rec room, and then now I'm in a small 8x10 room. So I thought I would share some of the ways that I store my supplies or organize my supplies, and hopefully you'll be able to take something away from that. Just know that because I am an active Stampin' Up demonstrator, most of the supplies that I carry or keep in my craft room are current supplies. So I don't keep a lot of retired product. However, I love paper crafting, and it is also my hobby, and I recently discovered the love of junk journaling. So I've had to make room in my craft space for junk journaling supplies because it's a whole other beast and requires different supplies. So I'm going to share my storage ideas and tips and tricks on that as we go as well. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and we will start with my junk journaling storage in my bookcase. All right, so before I go into the details on the bookshelf, I wanted to share something that I like to do in my craft space. So my husband and I have recently started thrifting, and I wanted to start incorporating some of my thrifted finds in my craft room. So I will kind of point those out, some of the things that I found and how I'm using them for storage as we go along. But one of the things that I really wanted my craft room to be for me was something pretty, an inviting space, somewhere that I would want to go. And yes, just like all other crafters, it does get messy and overwhelming at times. And you can usually tell when I'm super busy because that's what it looks like. There's piles all over the floor. It does not always look like this. But I tidied it up so that I could share it with you today. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll start up here. So these are a couple thrifted jars that I found. I've got some lace rolled on spools. There's some twine in there. I'm a huge twine. If you regularly follow me, you know I love my twine. And then this jar has just scraps of ribbon. So whenever I'm looking for a certain color of ribbon, that's where I go first before I go to my spools of ribbon. Then this next shelf here, I've got this little wire basket. I'm a big reader, so I do book journaling. So my book journaling supplies are in here. This was the second junk journal that I finished. It is a Christmas themed junk journal. I will have a flip through later this week. So once that's posted on my blog or on my YouTube channel, I will post a link to where you can find that. And then I've just got some random junk journaling inserts that I finished in this pretty little basket. This is a kit that I still need to work on. Down here, I just have this Lazy Susan. This Lazy Susan's just from the dollar store, but I have thrifted some old sugar containers, some larger ones for my twine, and then some smaller ones. So those are in there so that they are easily accessible. Those are the ones that I use most often. These are videos that I need to film, so I keep those in there so that they're handy. In here, I have scraps. So these are our kit boxes. So kit boxes or paper pumpkin boxes are fabulous for storage. And I keep them and use them in lots of different ways, and I'll share a couple other ways to use them as we go through the storage or the tour. So here, these are just little scraps. If you are a junk journaler, you know that you end up with tons of these. So it's just nice to have them all in one place. And then here I've got, this is all of my, well, not all of my junk, a lot of my junk journaling supplies. So here, this bin holds like books and things that I can kind of take apart and use to embellish my junk journals or as junk journal inserts. Here, these are like invoice books and some book pages, receipt books, just old papers that I can go ahead and include. This is all cards, so there's playing cards, some fun shaped cards that I've thrifted. Have you ever seen playing cards this shape? I thought they were so fun, and I scored those at our local Hodgepodge Lodge. There's some little playing cards, there's flashcards here, so if you were a junk journal, you know that those are fun to use. This basket is full of all sorts of sizes of tags, some plain, some printed. I've just got a couple bins here. My white and my black thread are there, and then just some random things. This is actually a jar. It used to hold mustard. So my parents spent a few years in Germany, and there's a place called Monschau, and they have the best mustard. So I had a jar and I just cleaned it out, and it's perfect for storing my paintbrushes. And then as we go down further, this basket includes some sewing patterns, which I'll cut apart and use, and then there's lots of postcards. And I have almost all of my bins are labeled so that I can easily find what I'm looking for. These are notebooks and just notepads, different, some of them are grid paper, some of them are lined, some of them are things like this that I found at a local Hodgepodge Lodge. And again, these make great inserts for journaling in a junk journal. So things like that, that's where all of these are, and all various sizes. Here, these are envelopes and bags. And then these are things that I can use for signatures. So sometimes I pull my books apart, and if they're just stapled, then I can keep them so that they've already got that fold in them, so I can just incorporate those. So these are all the ones that I've kind of taken apart that I can incorporate and not have to fold my pages. All right, and then down here, these are some of the books that I tear apart or take apart. Some of them are sticker books, but I've got some Edith Holden books, and then just some old books that I've collected. I love mushrooms. I found this mushroom book that has some beautiful illustrated mushrooms in there that I've used for my mushroom themed junk journal. And there's just various books that I've collected that I can take apart and use as embellishments in my junk journals. And then this is just a bunch of paper. There's some cardstock in here. There's some lined paper. There's some grid paper. I've got some coffee stained paper in here. So I just have them organized so that I can just pull out what I need when I go to work on a signature. And then I've got some tissue paper here that I like to use as well. Down at the bottom, I keep this iris container with just this divided container in here so that when I go to start another journal, I can pull out all of the supplies that I want to use, and anything that I want to use to decorate, I keep in here. And then this just sits inside so that when I want to work on that journal, I can just pull it out and everything is ready to go. And it works perfectly for crops and stuff like that as well. And then these are just some tins that I use for different events. All right, so that is the majority of my junk journal supplies. You'll see a few more in my closet when we go through the closet tour. So now we're gonna do the closet. Now, one of the things when I moved into this room, because it did used to be my husband's office, and now that we're empty nesters, he's got my son's old room and I've taken over this office. And I really wanted to make good use of the closet. So we kind of customized the shelving in here. So this unit right here is a Calyx or Expedite. I think it's called Calyx now. It's a 4-cube unit just standing on end, and then I've got the inserts, and that's how I store my cardstock. And then we added these shelves so that every inch of space in this closet is being used. So up on the top shelf, it's stuff that I don't use very often. I'm a little bit vertically challenged, so I do have a stool in here, but I try to keep the things that I don't use often up there. So there is a bin of, like, with my hot glue, there's some tools like a little hammer, things like that, Ziploc baggies, there's some pencil pouches and stuff. And then I do sell my cards locally here at Confetti Sweets. So I have 2 bins of cards that I pull from that I kind of am constantly kind of restocking. So those are up there as well. And then this next shelf, I've got extra cardstock. I always have extra cardstock on hand just in case I need it, of the colors that I use most often. These are some of the junk journals and journals, little photo albums and things that I am working on. A couple of them are finished. I do have a flip through of this beautiful pear themed junk journal, which I will link in the description below. And then I've got a few other things. There's some random supplies. This is a class that I recently ran, kind of using some gift bags to create a little mini album. And I will link, there is a tutorial on my blog for this that's available for purchase, so I will post where you can find that. And then bins, and again, everything is labeled. So I've got a label maker bin, I've got extra embellishments, so any Stampin' Up extra rolls of ribbon or embellishments that I have. There's a chalk paint bin, and then there's a bin with all sorts of cords, because, you know, we always have tons of cords laying around. And then onto this shelf. So back here, I've got these little, let me pull one out so I can show you. So these are just food storage bags from Dollarama. They come in 2 different sizes, but they are perfect for storing ephemera from different trips. So this is from a Norway and Scotland trip that I did. You can see I've got some coins in the bottom. I've got some brochures and stuff. So I like to keep my ephemera in there until I'm finished documenting the trip. So I've got several of these kind of standing up here. In this little area here, this is just some blank albums that I've got and notebooks that I can work on. Here I've got some of our empty stamp cases. So these are our old wood mount cases. I love them for storing different things, especially for taking them to retreats and stuff. But I've got one for flip-flops, one for photo placeholders, and then this one is for price tags. So these thin little stamp cases are perfect for storing different things, a variety of things. So I always keep a few of those on hand. These are some treats for an upcoming event. These are kits that I need to work on. So these are our 3 newest kits. So I can't wait to dig into those. This little bin here is an album that is in the works. So it's a little box that I picked up at the dollar store that I've turned into kind of like a little album from the year 2023. So it's almost done. There's still a little bit of work left. And then I've got my mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss there. My cardstock, I have it stored, basically my neutrals in the front, because those are the ones that I tend to use most often. And then I have it kind of stored in, I think it's like rainbow order. So reds, oranges, yellows, greens, blues, and then purples at the bottom. Okay, so for my cardstock, I have these 12 by 12 plastic dividers that I have labeled with the color. And then in between each file, I have 12 by 12 cardstock, which I usually keep in the package until we get down to maybe 1 sheet, then I'll take it out of the package. 8.5 by 11. And then I've got these 8.5 by 11 just sheet protectors that I keep my scraps in. And those are all filed in here. So, and I have maybe 3, depending on the colors, there might be 4 in some of these, but 3 colors per slot. It works really well. Sometimes I do have to be careful as to how many new packages, full packages of cardstock, like if I had 3 full packages of 8.5 by 11, it would get really tight in there. I try to avoid that. So on occasion, I'll take out like half a package and just keep the extra half a package at the top. But this works really well for me. The other thing is when I designed this closet, this storage, I made sure that this unit was away from the light from the window. So my cardstock wouldn't fade if my cupboard doors were open, my closet doors were open. So if I had put this unit on this side, the light shining into the window would have caused some fading in the cardstock. I would have had to be a little bit more mindful of keeping my closet doors closed. So that is something that you want to be careful of when you're designing or planning out your craft room, is you do not want light hitting your cardstock because it will fade. Then this next shelf, this bin is all finished scrapbook layouts that just need to kind of be filed away. Some of them do need photos added, but that's there. And then this is full of random things. Most of it is retired Stampin' Up! Embellishments. So if I have any retired product that I do keep, I try to keep it separate just so that when I'm designing for different events, I'm just ensuring I'm using current product. So I keep that, and I love to keep the retired embellishments because I still like to use those. There's still some great things there, and they're partially used packages, so I don't want to turn around and sell those. And then these baskets, this is just a big basket full of things that I use as little gift ideas. So thank you gifts for customers. So there's notepads in here, there's candy in here, just an assortment of things that I can make pretty and then use as thank you gifts. And then this basket is things that have already been decorated and are ready to give away. So I love having things like this ready to go. So I recently shared a video on how to create something like this. So I love having things like these ready to go for any kind of last minute gift ideas that I might need. So I've got a basket full of things like that. Here I've got some of the most common envelope sizes that I use for mailing and some paper bags that I use for packaging my class kits. And then down in this next shelf, I've got some storage ideas. One of them is full of supplies that I'm using to finish my daughter's wedding album. She got married like 3 years ago and I'm still working on it. And then there's some junk journaling supplies in here. And then these bins from Dollarama are perfect for storing lots of things. So I have my upcoming classes stored in these, and they fit 12 by 12 paper, which is so nice. They're the perfect size. And I think they're like, well, here in Canada, they're maybe $2.50. So they're really reasonable. So I've got my upcoming classes in those. The bottom is overflow junk journaling supplies. So anything that's a little bit larger, I keep at the bottom. So there's music books, and then there's another kit that iris container with a junk journal that I'm working on underneath there, and just random supplies. My scoring tool is down there, and that is the closet. All right, so this is something that my husband and I found at a garage sale years and years ago, and it's like a butcher block solid piece, one of the best finds that we have ever found. I've been using it for years. It does have an extension, so I can make it bigger, but this is where I film my videos because it's got the natural light from the window. This is where I have my paper trimmer so I can trim or cut for classes, and then I have most of my tools handy here for when I'm filming. So the top holds, I've got my thread and twine in here. I've got my pencils, I've got my punches, scissors, just all of the must use or always constantly used tools here. This is a little dish that I have just some random leftover pieces in here. This is a thrifted find. And then down here, this is where I store my current Stampin' Up! Paper. So I've got annual catalog. This is specialty paper like foil and glimmer paper. This is Christmas. This is kind of fall. And then I've got some brown paper and doilies for my junk journaling in that bottom one. I do have some other folders here. These are just folders that I picked up on Amazon. So this is kind of random glimmer paper bits and pieces. So this is retired stuff. I keep it separate. And then this one is with specialty papers. So our watercolor paper and vellum is in this one. And then in these bins, which I just picked up on Facebook Marketplace, in this one I have some printables. I discovered this wonderful woman on Facebook Marketplace she used to be a junk journaler, and she decided she didn't want to do it anymore. So she was getting rid of a lot of supplies, and she had a ton of things that she had printed. So she kindly gifted me many of those kits. So those are in here. In this one, I have all my fabrics for junk journaling, and I created these little tags and stamped the word fabric on there so I know what's in it. And then in this one, it's Christmas. Now, when I say Christmas, it's junk journaling Christmas supplies. So not my Stampin' Up Christmas supplies. And I just put Christmas on that tag there. And then on the floor here, I just have these bins that I picked up at Dollarama. And I have them stacked, and it's just packaging. So in this one, I have cello bags. In this one, I have my Stampin' Up bags. And then in the bottom one, I have the bags that I use for some of my class kits. And then this is actually just an empty box that I wanted to keep the box because it's a really good box, and I know I will put it to use at some point. Okay, so this unit here, this is IKEA kitchen cupboards. I've got 2 of the cupboards that I've customized with 2 deep drawers and then 2 smaller drawers on both sides. And these drawers are the best for storage. You'll see when you see just how much I have in these. And then this is just a butcher block, also from IKEA. This was probably the best investment that I've ever made in my business at all. Like it's just so handy and stores so much. And I love that it contains everything in, and it's closed so it doesn't look messy. All right, so first of all, we'll go over the top of what I have here, and then we'll go down through the drawers and work our way. So this is just something that I picked up at Home Sense, which is a local like home goods store. And it stores lots of bits and pieces. So I've got refills for my paper trimmer here, embellishments. Some of these drawers have junk journaling supplies, so it's just some smaller supplies. In here, this one's full of buttons. This one's full of ephemera, and these are perfect for embellishing my junk journaling. This one's full of like labels and words, numbers. And then this one's full of labels and tickets. I've got this little basket, which was thrifted, that I've got my washi tape in. This was gifted to me with a candle. I took the candle out and then put my blending brushes, some of my blending brushes in it. This has current embellishments in it. So these tins are something that Stampin' Up carried years and years ago, and they come in so handy. In here, these are just scrap pieces for junk journaling. Here, again, just some smaller notepads, and I do have some 3x4 memories and more cards in here as well. This holds some pens that I use often, my rulers, and this I use when I glue things for junk journaling. My stamp cleaner is here. And then in the drawers, so we'll start with this one. This one is ribbon. This is a mix of current Stampin' Up, retired Stampin' Up, and then some other bits and pieces that I've picked up. So all my ribbon there. In this drawer, I have this little bin. This is just from the dollar store. I use white scraps a ton. So I always like to have white scraps handy so that I don't have to get up and go to my closet when I need some white scraps. And then there's all sorts of things in here. I've got clips. These are all sorts of different colors and sizes of paper clips that I use for junk journaling. I've got some like little bulldog type clips, some tiny little paper clips. I've got some brads in this tin, just all sorts, sanding block, just all sorts of tools that I will use. And then in this drawer, these are my stamps. So you can see, like I said, I'm a full-time Stampin' Up demonstrator. I do not have a lot of stamps. So these are current stamps. And then these are anything that is retired or non-Stampin' Up! Stamps that I've picked up along the way that I want to keep. So I very rarely keep retired product. However, on occasion there are some stamps that I want to keep because I know I will use them over and over. One of them is this Elements of Text for junk journaling and for adding texture to the back of your projects. Fabulous. If you ever see stamps like this, these are perfect to grab. All right. And then I also have my 6x6 pattern paper in here. And then these back here are stamps that are on our last chance list. So our last chance list comes out every second month. Our last chance list gets updated. And anything that is retiring until Stampin' Up! Runs out of stock, it's on that last chance list. So it's kind of an in-between being discontinued kind of list. So I always pull those out, and before I go to use them when I plan for classes, I check that list to make sure that they're available. So I keep those separate. And then in this bin, because I know I'm going to get asked with Stampin' Up's new packaging, this is their new packaging for stamps and dies. So here's an example of a die set, and here's an example of a stamp set. So I was a little worried about how I was going to store these because I wanted to still use the drawer, but when I put these in the bins, they're too tall. I can't close my drawer. So I needed to come up with a solution. I did not want to use my bookshelf. I love how my bookshelf looks. I didn't want to stray from this drawer. So my solution is I am going to store them on their side in these bins. So right now, those are all the new packaging that I have. I don't have anything else with that new packaging. And eventually all of these will retire. So I'll have plenty of storage. But that's going to be my solution for that. I will separate. I don't like to keep my dies with my stamp sets because that's not how I craft. That's not how my mind works. So I will not store the two together. I will have a separate bin for my dies and a separate bin for my stamps, but they will all be in this drawer. And I'll share how I'm storing my dies in a minute. They're in the next drawer. But also in this bin right now, because I have the space, these are some of the supplies that I've pulled or set aside because I need to plan with them. So it's nice and handy because this is where I craft right here when I'm designing projects, because everything's at my fingertips. So I know I can just grab that, work with it, and then it'll go into my closet in one of those longer bins where I store my classes until I'm ready to hold them. All right, and then in this bottom drawer, you can see that everything is organized. So I have my dies here. So again, I don't have a lot because this is all current. And then I've got my embossing folders here, punches are here, I've got cello bags and transparent envelopes. My embossing supplies are in this little basket. I've got wax paper in case I need it for my dies. And then I've got extra magnet sheets just back here. So everything is all organized, and so you can see just how much these drawers hold. They hold an amazing amount of supplies. All right, moving on. Up here, we've got inks. I store them by color family. These are the in colors, and then we've got the neutrals, regals, brights, and subtles. The corresponding ink refills are above. I've got some more blending brushes there. These are the other ink pads, and some of them are retired. I've kept the colors just because I knew that I might want to use them for a little while. So I just recently started doing that because some of the colors I'm kind of sad to see go. So I like to keep them for a year or maybe two before I get rid of them. And then here we've got this little clear unit. This is all of my adhesives. So it's handy. I've got everything that I need in there right at my fingertips. All my blocks are in here. I've got, move this over. I've got some highlighters in here, and then some random pens and things. And then these are random tools. So the scissors, paper piercing tool, a ruler, you know, those types of things. And then these are some stickers that I have. My planner is here. It's normally open and on my desk. Here are more of those paper pumpkin and kit boxes. So like I said, they are great for storing lots of different things. In this bottom one, I have a Montreal mini album that I'm working on. So everything that I need for that album is in this paper pumpkin box. It's just like a 4x8 album, fits beautifully in there. This is photo paper and ink for my printer, my photo printer. This one has Stampin' spots in it, so just our little square ink spots. And this one has just photos that I've printed that I have not yet documented. These are just notebooks, catalogs, different files that I like to access often. This is my die cutting station. And then we'll move into these drawers. All right, in here, so I've got Post-it notes, notepads, extra staples, my just business supplies. I've got stamps. I've got my return address stamps in here, you know, just the basic office supplies. In this one, again, just random things, business cards, some things for my team, my little stash of candy. And then in this drawer, these are all envelopes and pre-cut card bases. So normally I have a lot more than this. I really need to replenish this, but I normally keep some of my more common colored card bases cut in here. So I usually have a big stack of white. I go through like two packages of a thick white cardstock, and I'll score and cut them all and just keep them handy in here, so I don't need to do that each time. And then various size envelopes in here. Some of the packaging that I use for my class kits is in there. And then in this bottom drawer, we've got some mini albums that have just one or two things that need to be finished in them. I really just need to finish. These are some cards that need to be filed, my extra Stampin' blends. I've got my gaffer tape for my mini albums, and then just random things. It's kind of like one of those junk drawers. It's just an organized junk drawer so that I can find it. And I always keep, here's a little tip for you guys, I always keep 3 different sized paper plates in my craft room. For any of those times when you want to make a circle on a project, these are perfect for them. So I always have these in there in my drawer so that if I want to make a circle, they are accessible. Okay, and to finish things off, I wanted to share another fun storage idea. So some of you may recognize this. This is a vintage sewing storage unit. So a lot of sewers use this, but it is great for storing crafting supplies. So I'm gonna share what I've got in here and how it opens. So again, this is all junk journaling supplies. So I've got some laces, some embroidery pieces, some doilies. I've been picking up some jewelry from thrifting stores and taking them apart and using them for charms on my journals. So I've got some jewelry making things in there, but then it opens up like this and creates extra storage. So I've got more lace because the jar wasn't enough. Up at the top, I've got some doilies here. I've got some more doilies here that I have tea stained or coffee stained, and then some more jewelry making supplies here for my charms. So it opens up, it stores a lot, but then closes up nicely to not take up a ton of space. And you can often find these on Facebook Marketplace. I lucked out and my mom had one that she wasn't using, and so she gifted it to me. So I just keep it in this little area right here. And then in this bin, this is just something that I've had for years and years, and it just has random things in there. There's some projects that I want to work on, so there's bits and pieces for those projects there. All right, so that is a tour of my craft room. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to either reach out to me or post in the comments below. I will check those. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank my son Ethan for filming this video and editing it. I appreciate that and his willingness to share his time. So thanks so much for watching. If you are not yet a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. Take care, and I'll see you next time.